Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last market breakdown of the week. It is Thursday, September or October 16. So let's get right into it. First of all, let's go through the two trades that we ended up closing. That was AUDCHF and USDCHF. Very, very bearish markets, both on the weekly and on the daily time frame here on AUDCHF. We basically had a super, super strong sell on Friday. We pulled back into the EMA, into the area of interest, had a selling candle, and that's where we entered. Basically, after the initial reaction to the downside, price broke underneath the 30-minute EMA. We were above, we created a head and shoulders, broke underneath, retested neckline, and then sold. After this engulfing candle, I entered. Stop loss was at the neckline above the EMA. And my take profit was originally this structure point right here. And then basically we sold into it very aggressively. And then the pullback happened inside of this little area of interest. And then we sold once again. And that's where I closed. I knew that there was going to be a pullback. I didn't know how aggressive it was going to be. Similar to the way that this pulled back right here, almost hit our break-even stop loss and then sold once more. Price pulled back into this area of interest, and there's going to be a continuation happening now. But yeah, pretty great trade overall. We're now trading underneath the EMA pretty consistently. Price does this sometimes where it breaks underneath, trades underneath, and then breaks back above and trades upwards. So I didn't want to risk maybe being a part of this pullback that breaks above the EMA and then continues to buy. So this was a 4% trade, 4.13 risk to reward, risking 15 pips on AUDCHF. Great trade overall. USDCHF, very, very similar in terms of structure. We had sellers coming into this market. Weekly time frame was bearish. Daily time frame was bullish at the time of entry and is still bullish technically. Oops. 4-hour time frame was bullish, higher high, higher high, higher high, shift the structure, lower low, lower high, lower low, pull back, lower low, pull back, lower low. We basically entered after this 4-hour engulfing bearish candle with a 20 pip stop loss. Stop loss was above the area of interest, above the 30-minute EMA, and then we basically sold very, very nicely to the downside. Price pulled back and is now continuing to sell once again. We closed this with a 2.76%. So that leaves the week with 6.9% overall. So that's fantastic. Yeah, that's basically it for the trade breakdown. Now let's go ahead and get into what we might be interested in for this week. Now, for these two, what we could expect is probably just a pullback to continue to sell. Price is bearish on most time frames, so that's probably all that's going to happen. Things get a little bit choppy within this area that we're in. Daily time frame seems to be closing with a doji. Now, I kind of mentioned how these two structures are similar in the way that they closed. We basically had pushed up very aggressively, sold pretty nicely, pulled back and then sold. Here we sold, pulled back, sold underneath the EMA. So this is obviously not exactly the same, but the idea is the same, that we broke above only to then break back below, retest and sell. Now, in a perfect world, what we would do right now is, since we're failing to break underneath this daily structure point, we will probably pull back into the area of interest, maybe into the previous structure and into the EMA before then continuing to sell. This is probably going to end up happening sometime during next week. I don't expect it to happen tomorrow. Like, there's no way we're getting the whole pullback, the rejection and the reaction all in one day. So that's not going to happen, but the idea remains the same. Once we break underneath the EMA, we then retest it to sell, retest to sell, retest to sell. That's exactly what I'm going to be looking for early next week. NZD CAD. NZD CAD. Exactly what I was talking about price pulled back into this area of interest, and we're starting to see a little bit of a reaction. Weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bearish, and 4-hour time frame is bullish. So ideally, price would continue to sell, but I actually called this out in the community saying that we might expect to see sells, but then I noticed that we have this 4-hour head and shoulders right here, which has the neckline right in this area at this area of interest. And upon seeing that, I realized that chances of us breaking through this area of interest are pretty low. So we're probably going to see another reaction to the upside, maybe then creating another head and shoulders and selling to the downside. I don't see why we wouldn't expect to see further sells, but there is a chance that we might actually buy a little bit higher before then seeing more sellers come into the market. Perhaps next week we will buy all the way back into this area of interest, into this EMA, and then sell. That's another option for us. Now, what I was saying is what we want to see is we want to see price actually breaking underneath the 30-minute EMA, retesting the 30-minute EMA, and then selling. So all of my great trades usually happen underneath the 30-minute EMA. As you can see, you could have tried to buy above, but you probably would have gotten taken out of the trade. Once we broke below, retested, broke below, retested, that's when I entered the trade. Same thing here. I didn't enter until we broke below, and then price action was basically super, super kind to us after that happened. So 30-minute EMA, waiting for that break and retest in order to take sells. If that doesn't happen, then I probably won't enter, especially considering the fact that we have this whole area of interest and inverted structure that would count or act as a support. Next is Euro AUD. Well, first of all, let's go back and determine if we're interested in any of these pairs for tomorrow. Maybe this one less so. Euro AUD or NZD CAD. Potentially, if we get a pullback and then a shift and then sell, could happen tomorrow. So we'll keep this one here. Next is Euro AUD. Euro AUD daily time frame, nice and bullish. 4-hour time frame, basically did exactly what we expected. We had the reaction, we pulled back into the EMA, then we pushed up, then we pulled back into the other area of interest, and then we had the push up. What happened after we pushed up? We pulled back into previous structure and had the continuation to the upside. So very, very clean price action. As of right now, I don't really see us trading this. We should have a bit of an area of interest right here. James. Hey, at least it counts as motivation. It gives you that feeling of doing something right, even if it's on a demo account. It builds momentum, and it builds what's it called? I'm at a loss for words. Builds confidence. That's the word I was looking for. It builds confidence. But yeah, price is now pushing above this area of interest here. Now, there are so many areas of interest in this area. Like we could count that as an area of interest. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure points right there. So, oh, look at that. We've already used this one. Okay, so we're not going to be waiting for price to pull back to that. We're going to be waiting for price to pull back to this. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points. 4-hour, technically the same thing. We've technically already pulled back into it, but let's say we create a double bottom and then we push up. That could be a nice entry right there for a continuation to the upside from the daily area of interest. Not the best trade in the world since we've already basically used the area of interest. We're likely just going to see continuation to the upside immediately from where we are. And if we're lucky, we might get a pullback into this previous structure before we then continue to buy. As of right now, not really interested. As you can see, same thing happened right here. We broke above, retested, and bought all the way up to here. So maybe that's exactly what we're going to see happening now. Not really interested in this for now. Euro USD. Euro USD is climbing as expected. We created this double bottom on the 4-hour time frame. Daily time frame is still bearish, but the weekly and the 4-hour went bullish. So we went bullish. We broke above the EMA, retested area of interest, retested EMA, and continued to buy. As soon as we broke above this structure point here, we then returned into this structure point, used it as a support, and continued to buy. And on the lower time frames, we also used some of the previous structures as a support zone as well. So decently moving right now. I don't think that it's so annoying that we took these losses here because initially, well, realistically, we should have gotten the winning trades on those. But if you notice what I said earlier, most of my winning trades happen underneath the 30-minute EMA when I'm selling, right? So I took this trade above the 30-minute EMA, paid the price, took this trade above the 30-minute EMA, paid the price again. Realistically, we could have just re-entered, say right here, sold underneath, broke, retested, and then stop loss like that, and then take profit like so. 1 to 4, basically zero drawdown. Now, same thing. We're above the 30-minute EMA. We're buying, we're buying, we're buying. Interesting way to trade this strategy or like this concept is you wait for price to actually break underneath the 30-minute EMA for a deeper pullback such as this. You wait for it to break above, and once it breaks below retest, that's when you enter for the sell. So you wait for it to break underneath, maybe retest this area of interest. As soon as it breaks above, retest buy, and then you kind of use that as your support zone going higher. That's just something that I kind of came up with just now, but it does work overall. The general idea is that the EMA will act as a support zone for price as it climbs higher. Anyways, what are we expecting price to do now? Well, do we have any daily areas of interest between here and here? The answer is maybe. So we have 1, 2, 3. So yes, we do have an area of interest. We can kind of delete this one now. Now, what I would prefer to see is price pulling all the way back into this double top or double bottom. I don't think that that's going to happen because this right here was the pullback into the structure point. Right now, we're using this area of interest right here. We're breaking above the 4-hour EMA. So everything is telling us that the buyers are back in control with the higher time frames, which are bullish. If you want additional confirmation, well, you can wait for price to kind of break above and retest the EMA and retest this area of interest to buy. So that would be a daily trade similar to this, where we broke above, then we retested, we had a doji, and then you could have probably entered. Look at this, broke above the EMA, broke above, retested, engulfed. So you could have entered something like that. Lower time frames, what happened? Exactly what I told you guys would happen. Broke below the 30-minute EMA, broke above, retested, engulfed, and that was your trade right there. So it's really that simple at the end of the day. A huge, huge, huge risk to reward there. That's kind of what I would be expecting now is just the final break retest on the daily time frame because the daily EMA does do quite a lot here. It holds price up for quite some time, and then it also holds price down pretty well. So that's what we'll be waiting for. It might take a few days though. GBP USD, we're in the same similar position as Euro USD, except for the weekly time frame here is bearish, daily time frame is bearish, and the 4-hour time frame is bullish. What we talked about yesterday was the fact that we can be using Euro USD as a confluence for GBP USD. Here we're bullish on the weekly time frame. Here we're bearish on the weekly time frame. But we do expect the moves to happen similarly. So Here we have two bearish time frames. Here we have two bullish time frames. Overall, I like the buys better than I like the sells. So we were using the weekly confluence from Euro USD for GBP USD. Now you can see how price is reacting from this EMA. That's why ideally here we'd wait for price to break through the EMA and then retest it to buy so that we don't get caught in a trade like this where we are in buys, but price is reacting from the daily EMA and potentially pulling back all the way into the 4-hour EMA before having the continuation to the upside. As you can see here, we have a double bottom similar to Euro USD. It would be fantastic to see price retest the double bottom to buy. And that's kind of what we'll be looking at there. GBP AUD. GBP AUD is gone. GBP AUD is gone. Now, we talked about this, I think, yesterday or the day before, where we had GBP, wait, AUD, GBP NZD, GBP NZD. So when we were having this conversation, GBP NZD was all the way up here, and GBP AUD was still down here. So we mentioned how we would like price to pull back into this area of interest. Into this area of interest to buy. That didn't happen, but it did push up and then retest this previous structure in this wick before continuing higher. GBP NZD actually did exactly what I anticipated, that is pulling back into this area of interest on the 4-hour time frame and is now having a continuation to the upside. Pretty good overall, but I don't think it's really tradable at the moment. GBP AUD is also pretty far away from our daily area of interest, away from our EMA. Therefore, I'm not particularly interested in it at the time. And we do have an area of interest right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, wick, 5, 6 structure points. I guess that's exactly what we just retested. I marked it up, price came back, retested it with a wick, and then continued higher. It's perfect. It is as perfect as it gets for that pullback to buy. Right now, I don't see anything that is tradable. We'll have to come back early next week to see exactly what we can do about trading that pair there. Euro NZD. Weekly time frame, very bullish. Daily time frame, very bullish. 4-hour time frame is bullish, higher high, higher high, higher high, went bearish, and had the continuation that is bullish. So right now we are, if we close as is, we're bullish from right here all the way up to here. And that means that we could probably expect a pullback into maybe say this structure right here, quick pullback into this structure for a continuation to the upside. Not the best trade in the world, so I'm not really interested in that right now. Plus, it seems like we might close with a daily doji, which is not the best for buys. Euro CAD. Daily time frame is about to shift bullish again. Weekly time frame is currently bullish. Daily time frame is currently bearish, and 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. Now, this is very, very nice. You can see how the 4-hour time frame went bearish, the daily time frame went bearish. We created a lower low, lower low, lower low, went bullish, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, so on and so forth. Now, we never pulled back into the EMA. We never pulled back into the area of interest, so I never took this trade. And that's as simple as it is. Next week, we'll have to come back and figure out if this is something that we want to trade. CHF JPY. This is a trade that I was expecting to be able to take. Now, when I sent out the idea, I similarly to GBP, was it GBP NZD or which other trade did I send out an idea for? Can't exactly remember. The other one had an inverted head and shoulders that I didn't notice. And this one had a bunch of doji daily candles. Now, this, you don't usually see a bunch of doji daily candles unless you're going to get a reversal. I don't know if you notice here, I guess this is not really a great example because this is a little doji, continuation. But in a situation like this where we kind of create a lower low, so this one is a little bit confusing for me because we had the higher high, but obviously we're not buying from a daily area of interest. We're buying from a 4 hour area of interest. We had an inverted head and shoulders pullback, engulfing everything you want to see, excuse me, from a buying market structure, except for the fact that we were literally at the highest point in the market. We had no daily area of interest. And right now, all we're waiting for is a pullback into at least this previous structure. There's so much empty space here that it's kind of untradeable. If you notice that price doesn't really do this often, it doesn't really leave a huge empty gap in price. It usually creates smaller candles and fills in all of the inefficiencies in price. So now what I'm thinking is the sellers might still be in control of this market. Yes, the weekly time frame is bullish. Yes, the daily time frame is bullish, but the 4 hour time frame seems to want to push the market down. Sorry, I just got a notification saying U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell falls while walking. Like that's news that'll move the markets. That sucks. That's what happens when you get older. So now for the whole pullback situation, what I would expect to see is price to shift bearish again on the 4 hour. And for sells, I would like to see price shift underneath the 4 hour EMA, similar to this right here, shift underneath, retest engulfing, and then you can basically hold price down into very minimum these wicks and this structure point right here. At the most, you could probably hold it all the way down into the daily area of interest right there. This is where price has had very many sellers and a few buyers above. It would be nice to see that happening. Anyways, right now we are not interested in this at the moment. Euro JPY, literally the same exact thing. Here we did the same thing. We had a lower low, and then we broke above the structure point. We went bullish, and then we basically, this is why it's so important to wait for the lower high or the higher low before we create the next higher high. On this one, I could have not even sent well, actually, this one is a completely different scenario. Here we actually did have the shift the structure, higher low, higher high. What other notifications am I getting? Bitcoin falls under 108K. Fantastic. It's time to buy. But yeah, expecting more sellers to come into these JPY markets. So my whole analysis is pretty much shifting to bearish. It's important to be able to adapt to the markets as they roll. We talked about this. Now Euro CHF. Euro CHF literally can't make this up. Weekly time frame, bearish. Daily time frame, bearish. 4 hour time frame, bearish. What happened? We've been creating lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, and lower lows. I had this marked up. I said yesterday, I would like to see price come back into this previous structure right here, maybe even into the EMA to sell. What happened? It did both. It came into this previous structure, it closed at this previous structure, and then wicked into the EMA. It did all three. It closed at the previous structure, it wicked into the EMA, and then it also wicked into the area of interest up here, while also, opening down here and pushing down. So it's doing all three things that I expected it to do. Where would I enter, you might ask? The best place to enter would have been here. As soon as the 30-minute shifted bearish, you also shifted underneath the 30-minute EMA. Sure, you wouldn't have gotten this entire move. If you're feeling risky, you could probably enter right here. Stop loss right here. You're up about a 1-1. But I personally would have entered somewhat like this. Stop loss right here. And targeting this structure point right here for an easy 1-2. It's as simple as it gets. So we'll see if this plays out sometime tomorrow. What about right now? How do we trade this pair? Well, right now, I would be aware of the fact that this right here could act as a support. So I would not enter immediately from where I am. I would wait for price to pull back into the EMA, maybe give me more confirmation for sellers. Because right now, what price could do is it could be pushing into here, using this as support to push up, right? So a good confirmation would be to actually use this up, use this support, use the buyers that are here for this push up, and then wait for the sellers to come back into the market and then enter with the sellers, because chances of us using this for buys 2 times in a row are very, very unlikely, considering the fact that our other timeframes are all very, very bearish. So that's exactly what we're going to be waiting for, either a pullback into this previous structure into the EMA or all the way up into the area of interest to sell once more. Okay. So this one is pretty tradable still. Yeah, wow. Did that really happen? Seems like our CHF, our AUD CHF trade is still running. What about NZD CAD? NZD CAD, wait, what? It was USD CHF. Yeah, so USD CHF, CHF pairs are still running, it seems. Not bad, not bad. In fact, we could have taken this trade again. Yeah, we could have, and I was actually tempted to enter again as well, except for I think I would have entered right here after this little engulfing, and then we would have actually lost the trade. But a better place to enter would have been probably over here. I don't know. I prefer when the market moves, quickly and without any extra moves to the upside. Because where would you place your stop loss here? You would place your stop loss, say you were entering right here, engulfing, stop loss would be like right here above this high and above this high. Bam, you got stopped out, you got swept with all the other liquidity, and now price is pushing into your main target right here. You could have probably re-entered after price broke back below the EMA and retested it. That would have been a great entry. But yeah, interesting to see. That's exactly what happened. GJ took off. Let's see that later. Okay. JPY pairs are down here. Now we've already gone over these ones, I believe, didn't we? Daily time frame still needs to close. Yeah, there's not much of an area of interest here for buys. Maybe a pullback to wick into this previous structure to buy. That could be an idea, but I'm not too interested in this right now. Euro NZD, we already talked about this one. Not too interested. GBP AUD, same thing here. Price is now pushing to the upside. Once again, previous structure to push up. Not too interested at the moment. Euro AUD, same thing, already went over it. USD CHF, continuing to push down. We almost wicked back into this previous structure, which would have been pretty nice to take a continuation sell from. Now on this one, you kind of have the same thing, except for I think this is so much cleaner than AUD CHF. You can even see how on Euro CHF, no, wrong. On USD CHF, when we had this push up, first of all, I don't think that I would have entered here. This one looks a lot less enticing than this one right here does. Don't ask me why. It's probably because we had two dojis and then a sell. But this one kind of just stopped and then sold. Pull back. Say we did take a loss here, but this is what's really nice for me. We broke above the EMA, we sold. We retested and then engulfed. This engulfing candle, taking trades here all day long. Stop loss right above. If you're feeling risky or, sorry, If you're feeling less risky, then your stop loss goes above this high, and then you're selling to this structure for like a 1 to 2. But I probably would do like a 15-point stop loss, 15 pip stop loss. So yeah, basically exactly a 1 to 2 right there. Obviously, we never took it, so I'm not going to leave that there. But yeah, decent overall trade. Not interested at the moment. Um, I don't even know where we don't even have like an area of interest or anything right now. Like I said, I would like to see one, I'd like to see the daily time frame shift bearish and then have a pullback on the daily time frame, maybe retesting this structure. As soon as this structure gets retested on the daily time frame, we're loaded up for more sells. That would be fantastic to see. Euro GBP. Euro GBP weekly time frame, bullish, daily time frame, bearish, 4 hour time frame is bearish. What happened? What's going on here? Higher high. So we broke above this structure right here, lower low, broke above, higher high, pull back. We broke below, went bearish, broke above this structure, went bullish. Then we never broke above, so we stayed bullish from here all the way to here, and then we remained bullish. We pulled back all the way back to this structure, failed to close below, therefore having a continuation to the upside. Now, what do we expect to happen now? Same thing. Just waiting for price to break above, retest and buy above this 4 hour EMA. As you can see, when we're below, we're selling. When we're above, we're buying. It's basically that simple. Euro GBP, daily time frame. Yeah, this is really not that bad. All we have to do is wait for this daily candle to close. Nice daily reaction off the EMA. And then tomorrow we just wait for a wick to the downside. Once the wick to the downside is created, then we can enter on the wick to enter on the buying candle that will then push higher. Okay. So Euro GBP will probably go up here. GBP NZD. Weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame bullish, and 4 hour time frame is bullish, creating higher highs. Price did exactly what we expected, pulled back once again, like I said, and pushed up. Pretty solid. We now have a higher high right here. We can expect the higher low to happen, which is happening right now. Pull back previous structure and continue up. Not interested right now. We'll have to wait for next week to see what that pair decides to do. USD CAD. USD CAD basically retested this previous structure and is now pushing up. We are far away from the daily area of interest. So realistically, not going to be trading this until we create a little bit more price action. Right now, it seems like we're just flying. But yeah, not really interested. AUD USD. Weekly time frame bearish, daily time frame bearish, pulled back into this wick, previous structure, 4 hour time frame, as good as it gets, really. What happened? I called out a break underneath the 1 hour EMA, retest of the 1 hour EMA to sell. That's exactly what I had marked up. What happened? Price didn't break below, kind of broke below, finally broke below, retested, broke below, retested, sold. So there was 2 opportunities to enter this trade, realistically, possibly even 3. Or all you need is one, and then your stop loss literally goes entry after the engulfing, stop loss above the high. Maybe you would have gotten wicked out here if you were being safe. Your stop loss would have been above that. And then your take profit would have been here for this one. Entry right there. Stop loss above the previous high and take profit right there. You're already up 3%. It's exactly what we called out yesterday. Can we trade this? Well, I don't know. Can we? Maybe for a pullback into the double top for a continuation to the downside. So that is tradable. NZD USD, what do we think is going to happen here? Well, here we created the head and shoulders pattern. I talked about there being a retest of the neckline and sell. That didn't end up happening, so we never entered the trade. I wanted price to fully retest the daily structure, the daily EMA, or no, sorry, messed up twice. The daily area of interest. Did that happen? Not exactly, but we did retest two things. We retested this wick. So we retested previous structure. I know previous structure, you usually want to retest the actual structure, but the wicks usually count as well. So yes, we're kind of far away, but it did actually make it there. Not only did we retest that, but we retested this EMA on the 4-hour time frame. Okay, so that's really, really nice to see. Daily time frame bearish, pulled back, retested, and continued to sell. 4-hour time frame did the same thing. Yeah, so there was this inverted head and shoulders, a little bit risky looking trade, but overall, I guess not really terrible. I probably wouldn't have entered just quite yet. Personally, I would have liked to see price fully break underneath this EMA so that the EMA is heading in the downwards direction. Right now, the EMA is still kind of climbing, and then a retest and then a sell. So that would be my full trade breakdown right there. AUD CAD, basically the same thing. We talked about a break underneath, retest of the EMA, the sell. I believe that's exactly what happened once again. Now we were going to be looking for buys if we broke above this area. We didn't do that, so we're not looking for buys. 4-hour time frame, retested the EMA, created a double top. What can we expect to happen? Maybe a retest of previous structure and a continuation to the downside, at least into these double bottoms. Same thing as AUD USD, so there's really no reason to trade both of them. AUD NZD. AUD NZD, we were talking about for price to close below this area of interest or close above this one. We're finally starting to see that happen. So once that does happen, we might be able to sell back into the daily area of interest down here. Daily, weekly area of interest. It's more like a weekly area of interest. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 structure points right there. So it would be nice to see price selling into this weekly area of interest, maybe next week sometime or tomorrow. That might happen tomorrow, depending on if we have any news events or not. But yeah, price is now selling. We have determined that we will not be buying above the structure point. We will actually be selling below. We broke underneath the 4-hour EMA, pulled back, retested 1-hour EMA. Sorry, not 1 hour. Kind of, I guess, the 30-minute EMA. You can see how nicely price trades above it, how nicely it trades below it, above it, below it, so on and so forth. Now what we're expecting is a full break, retest to sell. That's what I would be looking for next. A proper break and retest. We might actually create a double top right here. Maybe, I'm not sure. But price technically hasn't fully broken underneath this area of interest, so we can't really trade it just quite yet. AUD CAD, we already broke down. GBP CAD. GBP CAD finally breaking out of this little death triangle. Daily candle will close above. Next day, we might pull back and then sell. Now, the 4-hour time frame or the 2-hour time frame has already done that. We kind of broke above, retested, engulfed. I would not be trading this because price has done this before where we broke above, retested, just not fantastic because we're still inside this area of interest. Guess what we're doing now? We're finally outside of the area of interest. We're finally retesting this. So I'm going to put down a trading, whatever this is called, tool. And we're just going to pretend that we're entering right now after we just retested this. Stop loss underneath the 30-minute EMA, underneath previous structure, and we'll see if price is able to push into at least a 1 to 2. Now, what you'll notice is the 4-hour time frame opened without a wick to the downside. Now, that's probably telling me that the next 4 hour candle will create a small wick to the downside and try to fill in this empty area up here that is currently wickless. So there should be a wick there. If this was going to be a reversal, I would expect a nice big wick to the upside and then a full candle to the downside. We actually had the opposite happen. We have a nice candle to the downside or a wick to the downside and no wick at the top side. So we'll probably end up seeing some buyers entering this market. So let's just pretend that that's going to happen, pull back into area of interest to buy, and that's going to be the analysis for this. GBP CHF. GBP CHF weekly time frame bearish, daily time frame lower low, lower high, lower low. 4 hour time frame broke underneath the EMA, retested EMA, and sold. So this is one that I had marked up like this, where you have this trend line, you broke underneath the trend line, retested it, sold. Then we came back, retested EMA, retested this previous structure. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, this little previous structure last time, but price literally did pull back into this previous structure and then sold once again. Is this tradable? Probably not. I don't think I would have caught any trades up here. Maybe if I was feeling super, super risky, I would have entered after this engulfing candle. Stop loss would have had to have breathing room. So maybe above this trend line, and then take profit would have been at the very minimum right here, somewhere within this area for a 1-to-1. Not something that I would do. It's not my style. So analysis was right, but the trade was untradeable. You can see how this is pretty spot on for what price does on this pair. GBP CHF is not my favorite. It does end up being very, very choppy at some points. Disgusting, right? So we don't want to be trading this. What we want to trade is we want to trade a clean sell retest of this area of interest to sell once more. That's what we'll be looking for sometime next week. CAD CHF. CAD CHF daily time frame is bearish. It was bullish and then we closed. Now we are bearish. So weekly's bearish, daily's bearish, 4 hours bearish. Now we talked about there being a pullback into this structure. Didn't happen, so we're not interested. Price just kind of ran away from us. NZD-CHF, wow. NZD-CHF spot on. Like you can't make it up. We took the sell 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, for almost a month ago, I guess. The 16th, exactly a month ago. And who could have guessed we could have held for an entire month? Now, market structure here is nice. I mean, very, very clean, just fantastic. Under the EMA, pull back under the EMA, retest previous structure, sell, pull back, sell, retest previous structure, sell. Everything is as nice as you would want it to be. I mean, there's really not much more to be said. I don't know what I was doing 4 hours ago. I should have been trading this, I guess, but geez, how fantastic. Now, I guess CHF pairs for me were a little bit iffy. I had already exited AUD CHF and USD CHF, so I was like kind of torn between the fact that I could have held longer potentially, or about the fact that price might be reversing from where we are, which clearly, excuse me, wasn't the case. Clearly wasn't the case there. So what do we do now? We just wait for the same thing. We have a little area right here, previous structure. We just wait for price to pull back into previous structure to sell, or pull back to create a double top to sell, okay? Two options. Now, understand that you're not selling from a daily area of interest. You're not selling from a weekly area of interest. You're not even selling from an area of interest on the 4 hour time frame. All you're selling from is previous structure and hopes and dreams. But you're selling into nothing. You're selling into no structures or anything. You're just selling. It's like gold, but inverted. Gold, you're buying into all-time highs, you don't know where you're targeting. You don't know if price is even going to make it to your profit target. So here, what we did is we just entered an area where we've seen some reversals. You can see how this 30-minute candle opened directly downwards. We have no wick at the top. So there's a good chance this candle actually goes bullish, maybe retesting the EMA before we continue to sell. I have no clue. It's a little bit late in the week to say that, to be able to predict what this is going to do. But let's go ahead and go into the last pairs, which are JPY pairs. Now, JPY pairs, I was expecting bullish momentum from them this week. I was wrong. Does that mean I'm going to be wrong for next week? Probably not. Probably not. Now, JPY on the weekly time frame is bullish here. It is bullish here. It is bullish here, 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 and here. Okay, so we're bullish on all JPY pairs at the moment on the weekly time frame. Daily time frame, bullish, bullish, bullish. Same thing. Once again, nothing changes. They're all the same. Okay, so we already have a confirmation across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 JPY pairs that we're bullish on 2 time frames. If that changes on any of them, then I'll consider taking sells. But as of right now, we have very, very strong bullish confirmation across all the JPY pairs. All we're waiting for is for this market to find its point of reversal and then just take buys from there. Now, maybe we're waiting for price to reach the daily EMA. The daily EMA is kind of far here. Now, that's another thing is I'm thinking that on some of these pairs, we have pushed so far up that we have to pull back into previous structure. CHF JPY is a good example. We're way up here, previous structure is way down here, area of interest is way down here, so is the EMA. So there might be some of these might go bearish while others remain bullish. And that's probably what's going to end up happening. But overall, I do expect buys long term. So the daily might go bearish, but I believe the weekly will remain bullish. Therefore, we will continue to look for buys, whether that's next week or the week after. Doesn't matter. If right now, if you're going to be taking sells, you're going to be taking counter trend trade sells. So if you want to be taking sells, you want to be taking them underneath the 4-hour EMA, retesting the structure, and then selling right to here. You don't want to be selling any lower than that point right there. Euro JPY already underneath the EMA. You're just waiting for a pullback into previous structure, into area of interest or EMA to sell. JPY or CHF we already went over. Here, same thing, I guess, pull back into area of interest to sell. Now, understand that these are all highly counter trend trades. So I'm not going to be taking any of them. I'm just kind of going over possible trades with you guys. Retest to sell. And here we're already under the EMA. You see how we broke through, retested, sold. Very, very clean, very nice, very easy. Could have made quite a bit of money off of these trades already. And then NZD JPY, same thing. We're selling. This one of all of them looks like it's about to go bearish on the daily time frame. We're also at the area of interest right now. I think I'm losing my voice. I don't know what's wrong. I've been yapping for you guys too much. 4-hour time frame, daily time frame. But yeah, overall, it's not bad. I did expect a wick fill here. This is kind of surprising to me. Whether this is like one of the only pairs that is underneath the EMA. Everything else is above the EMA on the weekly time frame. So it doesn't make much sense to me for us to completely reverse. But who knows? Maybe this was just a huge manipulation, taking out some highs, and now we're just going to go bearish like long term, or at least into some lower structures here. That's completely fine with me. I just want to see more price action doing that. Because the reason that I took my trade on where was it? AUDCHF was because of this candle, right? So this is the same thing as JPY. There was a huge selling candle. For JPY, it was a huge buying candle. Then I waited for the pullback. then I waited for the pullback into previous structure, into area of interest, into EMA, and then we sold. So it's kind of the same idea, except for it's on a higher time frame. It's on the weekly time frame. Oh, wait a minute. I already went over this on Monday or on Sunday. I think I said this on Sunday where I was saying there's a strong chance that we end up closing with a bearish week. Okay. Now, let me show you guys an example of this. Okay. So here, when we sell, there are certain times where we sell, price knows it's going to sell. Like there's multiple areas that it sells, and then you have a bullish week before having another bearish week. This is just a pullback. Bullish week, off the area of interest, people might be trying to buy, but it's bearish. You have a bullish week, but it's actually bearish. So I think that that's similar to what we're getting right now, where we have this bearish week, but the next week is going to be bullish. Like it's just inevitable because price already told us where it wants to go. It just needed to pull back first. Okay. So that's kind of the idea that I'm basing my analysis off right now. The idea that price had the push, it's having its pullback, and then sometime next week, we're going to have the continuation. Okay. That may not happen. We might get another bearish week in a row. And then if that happens, then we'll probably be selling for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that's basically it for all of these pairs. I think I've already gone over basically everything. Now let's go ahead and kind of figure out what's tradable and what's not. So for this one, we're just waiting for the continuation to the upside. We've already had the pullback. Here, we're waiting for a break and retest. Here, we're waiting for a pullback to sell, pullback, or kind of like a break and retest, or just a pullback to sell, break and retest, pullback to sell. Here, I gave you two options, but the real option is just a break and retest. Euro USD, we've already done the break and retest. I think we're just waiting for a pullback to buy. Pullback to buy, pullback to sell. Okay. And then this is break and retest, break and retest, and break and retest. Okay. So these ones are all pullbacks. These are all breaks and retests. And then the rest we will not pay attention to. Do we go over Bitcoin and stuff like that? I guess we can. Weekly time frame seems to be shifting bearish. Now, I already talked about this. I said that there are times where price creates a double top and then sells into the EMA before we continue to buy. I think that's exactly what we're going to be seeing is price got exhausted. You have to understand how like the markets work, right? We're not just trading numbers, we're not just trading candles, we're trading people's emotions and thoughts. So when things get too expensive or people think that they're getting too expensive, they'll no longer pay money for it, right? So that's why the market starts to reverse. Now, at what point do people say, okay, it's affordable now? I don't think that it's going to go any lower. I think that this is the lowest it's going to go, and I'm willing to pay money for it. Same thing with NASDAQ, same thing with gold. Now, why is gold on a run? Oh my, what the? Are you serious? Is it the weekly time frame? Yeah, so gold is an absolute tear right now. Why? Because people expect it to be very expensive. Like they don't think that gold is priced properly compared to what's going on in the world right now. Everyone is scared, everyone is confused, nobody knows what's going on. There's a lot of things changing. Just you know, lots of emotions running high and lots of fear. Fear and confusion, things like that are what are driving this market upwards. Okay. That's probably not going to stop anytime soon. So, same thing with Bitcoin. Right now, people are taking their money out of Bitcoin because they're like, okay, well, we don't know if Bitcoin's actually going to, if it's really worth $120,000. So they're pushing it down to a point where people are like, well, maybe it is worth or $100,000 flat. In fact, $100,000 flat's a fantastic price to buy from. But yeah, S&P 500, we had a huge weekly bearish candle last week. And then, I mean, I'm still expecting sells. I'm expecting a continuation to the downside. I think that that's what is appropriate. No way. Price sold like that. It's always after I get off the markets for the day. Like yesterday, I placed my last selling order literally right here, and I got taken out by $5, literally like $5. And then it just absolutely sold off. Same thing here. I was in sells. Let's see. I was in sells right here, right? I waited for price to push up into this area. I sold, and I got taken out at break even right here. And you can't make it up. You can't make it up. But this is fantastic. It just shows that I'm selling in the right places. I'm analyzing the market correctly. If you know how to analyze the market correctly, 5 times in a row, you can do it 100 times. It doesn't really matter. Um, but yeah, overall, I do expect sellers to continue to sell this market off. Um, if it was going to buy, it would have by now probably retested this high. But I do expect price to start making lows. It's starting to break back underneath the 4-hour EMA, and it's probably just going to continue to sell underneath the 4-hour EMA, if I'm being completely honest. So, yeah, what we could expect to see is we could expect happens to you a lot. Yeah, happens to the best of us, right? So we already saw the pullback into the EMA. We're probably just going to continue to see sellers in this market. Here, beautiful head and shoulders pattern, retested the neckline with this huge wick pullback. Probably just going to see a continuation to the downside. Gold, I'm not even going to analyze gold. Like gold, you can literally just click buy. Well, as soon as you see a bunch of red candles and you retest an EMA, you just click buy and get on your knees and start praying. And chances are the gold gods will answer your prayers. That's the way it's been moving. I really don't know. I don't know when gold is going to stop moving up. It's just like I watched one of Alex's Sunday swings. They're like, "Oh, people want me to analyze gold." He looked at gold once, said it's not an all-time high, so I can't trade it. I'm not interested. So he just closed it off. But yeah, at an all-time high. What's happening here? Literally, what I explained was going to happen. Price did what? Broke under the EMA, retested EMA, and started to sell. So dollar index should see a nice continuation to the downside with the higher time frame. This is the same thing as USD or Euro USD, and it is also the same thing as USD CHF in terms of price action. Okay, USD CHF, you'll notice same thing, just same market structures, everything. Euro USD, where is it? Euro, Euro USD. There it is. Same thing, just inverted. Okay. So dollar index should continue to drop as Euro USD does, or as Euro USD climbs. Sorry. But yeah, that's basically it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, ask them now.